Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 from my series Beyond HR. Today we'll talk about what happens when HR loses its credibility in the organization and how to rebuild it. So let's get started. HR doesn't lose its credibility with one bad decision. It happens quietly in those small moments where we choose comfort over courage, where we choose to stay silent to avoid conflict, where we promise what we can't deliver, or where we choose to protect relationships instead of principles. I've seen it happen from both the sides, with employees and even with the leadership teams. So today I want to talk about how those moments look like when HR starts to lose its credibility gradually and how to rebuild it. Let me talk about the first lesson that I learned, the compliance trap. A few years ago, I was in touch with a fast-growing startup's founder. He wanted to let go of few people overnight. He called his HR head and said, "We need to act fast, no discussions." The HR head disagreed but stayed quiet, hoping she would manage the situation later. But when the employees were terminated, the damage was already done. HR wasn't seen as a protector of fairness anymore, but an executor of management's will. Fear replaced trust. And once people associate HR with fear, credibility starts leaking. You're one okay at a time. Complying with management's decision is easy, but credibility comes from speaking up for what is fair, not just quietly complying. Here's another example, the over-promising HR. In another company, HR ran a very big engagement survey. People participated and shared honest feedbacks. The workload, recognition, growth paths, etc. The HR went on stage and said, "We'll fix it in 3 months." The intent was pure, but the leadership wasn't aligned. The budgets were not approved and the systems were not ready. Next time the HR spoke, people smiled politely, but nobody believed them. Because the credibility doesn't die in conflict, it dies in over-promising. But the credibility loss doesn't always happen downward. Sometimes it happens at the top as well. A CHRO I know, extremely capable and strategic, found out one morning that the CEO had elevated a senior operations head to a COO role without looping her in. Not out of malice, but in his words, it was a business call and HR will formalize it later. That one sentence told her everything. The leadership stopped seeing HR as a partner in decision making and they only saw it as an administrator of outcomes. Now that's another level of credibility loss, where HR becomes invisible at the table where people decisions are made. And rebuilding from there isn't about demanding a seat, but it's about earning one through data, insights, and strategic presence. And here's a quick takeaway. Credibility is a combination of 3 C's: courage, competence, and consistency. Whether it's with employees or the board, credibility has the same foundation: courage to speak the truth, competence to bring in value, and credibility to do the both even when it's inconvenient. Now let's understand how to rebuild trust with 2 examples. Few years ago, one HR leader who I deeply admire faced employee trust crisis. People stopped engaging with HR, survey participations dropped, people stopped showing up for open sessions. Instead of pretending that everything was fine, she began by owning it up. The next town hall, she spoke to her people. "I know HR has fallen short. I know we have been listening less, explaining less, and showing up late. I can't go back and fix the past, but going forward, I'll be transparent and answer all your queries, even when the answers aren't perfect." And then she started practicing it. She started posting regular updates on internal and external channels. There were visible decision making and zero sugarcoating. Slowly, people started opening up. Credibility wasn't won back overnight, but transparency rebuilt it brick by brick. And now let's talk about rebuilding credibility with the management. And this one takes a different muscle altogether. A CHRO I had worked with started losing a strategic visibility post leadership reshuffle. The CEO started bypassing HR on all key role changes. Instead of reacting emotionally, she quietly built influence through insights. She started showing up to business reviews, not with people updates, but with business linked insights. For example, attrition in revenue team costed us 3.5 crore in the last quarter, and here's how we can fix it. Within a few months, the same CEO started calling her before every major restructuring conversation because she stopped talking HR and she started talking impact. When you shift process to partnership, credibility naturally returns to the table. Over the years, I have learned HR's biggest power isn't any policy, it's trust. And credibility isn't lost in any one moment, it's lost in patterns. But here's the good news, it can be rebuilt. By standing up when silence feels easier. By saying, I don't know, but I'll figure it out instead of pretending. By showing both employees and the leaders through your actions, not through your words, that HR means business. Because the day people start believing your word again, that's the day HR stops being a department and become the conscience of the organization. I'm Richa and this is Beyond HR, where we talk about what they don't teach you in HR schools. But every great HR leader learns the hard way. Stay tuned for more such learnings. Thank you.